When I say access to the same opportunities, you got to look at the environment. So when I say that, when we have these discussions, a lot of us say that, well, I grew up in a hood, the hood this, the hood. The fact that so many of us have that same story, that we grew up in the hood, is problematic within itself. Why do so many of us have that experience? And again, that goes back to the redlining and things like that. For a lot of people, especially people of privilege, I would even say that I am a person of privilege, not necessarily like, making a whole lot of money, but privilege in terms of, like how I was saying, I had both of my parents, raised. So I'm sitting in a position of privilege from that aspect. I was raised in a middle class family. So certain things from that is going to be passed down to me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting in a position of privilege. You know what I mean? So in that regard, when you have people who are not born in positions of privilege, they're going to continue to pass down those same things from their families. And so even though Trigger Mike, you are first generation here,
Mm-hmm.
your parents still came intact. The cultural values that they came with from their country is still directly passed down to you. And I hear you talk about, the things about like your father, the things that he instilled in you because of the culture. His culture came intact and he was able to pass that down to you. Now, what's going to look different is that as you begin to see your kids and their kids become more Americanized. And I think that's what begins to happen.
It's a reason that you feel it's necessary for you to be at home with your children.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What is that reason?
Their benefit, their upbringing.
That translates into what when they become adults?
Productive, functional adults in society.
So you would agree that you need to set a foundation, and then from there you can move forward in a progressive stance.
Absolutely.
So if the stance has not been foundationally correct, hence the name Foundational Black America, then would you not agree that it would be lots of dysfunction flowing through that?
I don't understand the correlation you're making between the descendants of slaves and loss of functioning family. These people were together.
He's saying in the
That's why I'm like,
most married
it was fractured in 1960 by the Great Society and all of that, and then by the choices each individual person made after that. That's why I'm like, the culture of Black slaves is not dysfunctional family. It's not. It's intact family.
It's because what he's saying is at one point in the 60s, and I did read this, we were the most married. Black people were the most married in the United States, and I guess that had to do with segregation and all that stuff. We were stronger together, so to speak. So he's saying that if that were the case from slavery, then that 1960 togetherness would have never happened. It would have just been single parenthood, because that was been a reflection of slavery. But because we did come together and we were solid families at one point, so that you can't use slavery anymore because we did have that as an example. It's just that for whatever reason we separated from that.
Okay, so do you think that after do you not see like, because I don't know how much history of America you actually know. So do you understand like the targeting of that?
I was born here, man. Come on.
No, you talking like a tether. So I need to understand. Do you understand the targeting of Black Americans? Like, so the 60s and
so I understand the theories about targeting Black America. I just don't agree with all of them.
So does COINTELPRO?
I do not agree. I do not agree with the constant victimhood mentality. I can agree with some of it that is fact. I do not agree with it.
Which part do you agree with? So maybe we can
everything that has been proven through pattern, redlining. Like you said, everything that has been proven through pattern, I agree with. Not proven through theory of a prominent man that said it happened, or everything that's proven through pattern, I agree with. Redlining is one. I mean, shoot, even.
Do you think that drugs was introduced to the community in order to fund the Iran-Contra war? Do you think that happened?
No, that actually happened. Those papers and documents were released. Yep.
Do you think it was specifically done to stop a black liberation?
Oh, so this is actually my number one. This is actually my number one feeling about it. The reason why I talk so freely and loosely about this is because I'm not convinced these things are always about race more than it is about class. And unfortunately, the black community is always overly represented in the underclass of Americans, of the lowest wage earner. Because I'm telling you right now, when the underclass becomes the Hispanics, they will oppress them the same damn way. There's
always the intersectionality between class and race, though.
Well, in this country,
yeah.
But the bad part about it, this is where we start to differ, because there's an intersectionality between class and race, and it becomes more prominent when the underclass of race doesn't have the same opportunity as the upper class. But in America, we do. That's where immigrants have the problem. Usually the marginalization of the underclass is where you get the race. Y'all are oppressing black people. Y'all don't give them the same opportunities. You charge them the same taxes. That's where people are coming in like that would be unfair. But you do have the same opportunity. And that's where we're like, whoa, this is crazy.
No,
but you just told me not to exercise their opportunities earlier.
I don't necessarily think you have access to the same opportunities.
Oh, let me put this back.
This is what I'm saying. When I look at
I'm listening. I just got to put her in a room real quick.
Okay. When I look at certain things, when I say access to the same opportunities, you got to look at the environment. So when I say that, when we have these discussions, a lot of us say that, well, I grew up in a hood, the hood, the hood. The fact that so many of us have that same story, that we grew up in the hood, is problematic within itself. Why do so many of us have that experience? And again, that goes back to the redlining and things like that, right? And then a white flight, when they leave, once a certain amount of, black people, minorities, typically they say up to 20%, then they'll leave. So they're taking their resources, their finances, money with them when they go somewhere else. So when we say we have the same access to opportunity, when you look at the education system in, let's say, New Orleans, mm-hmm. You can't say that same child have the same opportunity as somebody that lives in Buckhead here in Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Those are two different opportunities in terms of having access, because they won't even be exposed to the same thing. They could be the top person in New Orleans, the straight A student in that class, and graduate top of the class. But when they leave to go compete, let's say in college, they're going to realize that what they were learning in school has not prepared them for college life, because they were an A student. But if everybody's operating at a 5th grade level, that's not the same opportunity.
All right. So that's where we get. So I think that is one of the fundamental things that we don't understand in this country, is that we don't equally distribute. Like, it's not owed to us to have an equal distribution of educational opportunity like that, the way we're talking about, if it doesn't equate to what can be funded through tax dollars. The only way what you're saying could be substantiated to be wrong is if that redlining we were talking about was still occurring. If I wasn't able to move into this neighborhood in this bomb-ass school district, then we'd have a problem.
But you have to have access to finances in order to do that.
Say that again?
You have to have access to finances in order to be able to live in a neighborhood that you do. But if you grew up, like I said, in New Orleans and educated in New Orleans, the likelihood, when we're looking at the stats, the likelihood of you being able to move from that environment into the environment that you are now is slim. And when Katrina happened, and Shan can speak to this, when Katrina happened, and a lot of those students had to come here, and we had to teach them in our classes, the level of where they were at in terms of their education and ability was crazy.
But let me ask you a question. But there again, we see situations where the resources are there, the teachers are there, they're just not willing to receive the information. You understand what I'm saying? So at that point, it becomes like, at what point is this person just responsible for taking accountability for receiving the information? Because that happens a lot. You know, I don't know how New Orleans school system is, but I can only imagine that even in some countries, their educational system is probably not even near ours, but yet you find a way to excel. You understand what I'm saying?
But that was my argument from the beginning. I was saying that's why I said I felt it was intellectually dishonest, because there's a talented 10% of any population that no matter what scenario or what place you place them in, they're going to succeed. And my argument was that the talented 10th of that specific group that he's referencing came over here and then comparing themselves to the other majority.
No, they didn't.
They continue to compare themselves to the other talented.
They weren't the talented 10th.
If you,
they were the desperate 10th.
Well, most of the people, you're talking about people who come from.
They weren't the talented 10th. So the talented 10th in Nigeria stays in Nigeria and controls the oil.
What percentage of Nigerians came over to America out of the overall general population?
I don't know. For real. I don't know that specific number at all. I was like, those people stay in their country. They make money in their country. That's where they want to be anyway.
We all have
that's what happens with Asians. Like if you're looking at Indians, it's usually the talented ones that end up leaving, going.
No. So that's actually incorrect. It's not talent. So here's the funny thing about it. Everybody says we come here to do blah, blah, blah. America is a capitalist country. Mm-hmm. We come here to take advantage of capitalism. I don't know if y'all know, America's for sale. It got a big ass for sale sign on it. You can see it if you put on binoculars. So they basically say anybody who can come here and is willing to work can make it. That's the advertisement America puts out to the world. Then Americans are actually something of legend all around the world. You hear all these great stories because of the figureheads of America. Mm-hmm. So anybody over there right now, there was like in the early 2000s, you heard about Steve Jobs. Now all of a sudden, iPhone, the biggest thing all around the world. You hear about Bill Gates, everybody using Microsoft computers. So it's because of those figureheads that America has the name that it has. Always had these big tycoons. You get here and you like, the people lazy as fuck, bro. And then you realize that you can take your culture. This is where their culture comes into play. Your culture, your values, and your work ethic, and beat the shit out of these people here. And that's what they do. It is not the talent. It's not the talented 10th. It ain't even the talented 7th. But their 7th has more work ethic because the entitlement in America has gone too deep. Y'all are too entitled. Y'all have too much. So y'all take everything for granted. Y'all have way too much. Those people don't have shit.
So that was okay. So this is my thing.
We're gonna wrap it up in a second, Mark. So
all right. So I think ambition and drive is a talent just as much as being intellectually savvy is a talent. We each bestow with different gifts. I can't sit there and judge somebody for not being 6'8", 230 and articulate. And I can't say why you don't got the same outcomes that I got. I can't do that because they don't have the same exact. So what I'm saying is, if it seems as though you're universally applying that the desire to succeed in America against people who may not have that same skill set, and the skill set being, I believe, ambition is a skill set, because there are a lot of people that have similar talents, right? One person might be a phenomenal artist, another person might be 50% that artist, but has 100% ambition and drive for that. That ambition and drive is also a part of the gift that they were bestowed. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I'm making that 10 and 10 argument.
Okay.